Hi everyone, it's Tricky Crayon. I'm finally coming back to you with some of the requested MLM content that folks asked for in the comments of my 3 different anti-LuLaRoe videos that I've made at this point. A lot of folks asked for other MLMs, among them like Herbalife, Beachbody. A bunch of folks mentioned Amway. Since making the videos that I've made, listened to the podcast The Dream, which is a really good source for especially information on Amway, but that also goes into like a few of the beauty ones and MLMs in general and why they're so awful. So this could potentially be informed some by what I heard there, but for the most part, it's stuff that I've researched and looked into based on folks asking questions in the comments. One thing I will say is if you were looking for information on Amway, like if you wanted to hear me do a piece on it, you might actually want to listen to that podcast instead. It's really well produced. They did a great job. There are a lot of primary sources that are cited there. So it's definitely a good source to check out if you're curious about Amway in particular, or even just like MLMs in general, because honestly, a lot of this shit applies to all of them. Sorry in advance for any weird audio stuff. I've been trying to experiment with my levels on my microphone and its distance from me as I record and stuff, so it might be a little weird. So this video topic, or this particular bunch of MLMs, comes from a comment by a Jimmy Dean. I know a number of other people mentioned some of these as well, but Jimmy Dean specifically requested health and wellness MLMs. So what I did here is mostly focused on the monetary aspect of these MLMs. What I did was go through income disclosure statements that the companies put out that you can find online. I'm going to try to link a bunch of them in the description as well. But if you Google, Herbalife income disclosure statement, you'll be able to find at least a few. They're different years a lot of the time. I'm not sure what the rhyme or reason is for that. But some of them are like from 2012. Some companies have them up from last year. It doesn't seem to be consistent which ones pop up when you Google. But you can find all of this information yourself. I'm just presenting it hopefully in a way that's kind of easily digestible for you guys. So the first important note here is that the word earnings means different things to different companies. To some of them, earnings are commission that the company pays you for making sales or hitting your goals. For some of them, earnings is just the income that you made off of the products that you sold. So I've tried to note that out where I can, but if I didn't, again, like the disclosure statements are out there, so you should be able to see them for yourself. Another thing is that no matter what any of these companies say about the folks who make a lot of money and how you can have success and yada yada, the biggest thing is these earnings statements aren't showing you the expenditure versus the profit. So what you're getting is the company saying, on average, our consultants in this bracket made this many dollars of commission last year. Or the consultants in this bracket made this many dollars of profit on things they sold last year. So you have profit on things sold and commission. None of that includes how much money the person spent on purchasing product or going to conventions or throwing parties or whatever it is with that company. So that's a really important thing to note. These are not true figures that you would see from a business that is being run. These aren't, okay, every one of our silver consultants, their average spend for the year was $4,000 and their average income was $50. It's just going to report, their average income was $50. So even people in this low bracket, they made a little money last year. That's not the case. That's the profit that they saw or the commission that they earned. It's not necessarily that they actually even netted out $50 in profit. The numbers are presented in not the clearest ways. It can be tough to suss out what each company means, again, by earnings in these statements. But that's one thing that you've really got to remember is they don't capture what it costs to run your business. They really only capture what the company saw you getting as income. That's not the same as your actual profit. Today, I'm going to go into Beachbody Coaching, Plexus, Herbalife, and Arbonne. Those are the 4 that we're going to hit today. They all have sort of similar missions, at least in part. They use slogans that are like, about changing lives and getting healthy and helping other people and like changing the world and that kind of shit, which is all bullshit. But that's the general gist of this group of MLMs. These ones I feel like are particularly predatory. And the first point that I want to make applies to all of them, which is that dieting doesn't work. On one of my videos, someone did comment that Beachbody worked for them really well. They lost weight, they stayed in shape, yada, yada, but that it was too expensive to keep up with. The thing is, it's been proven time and time again, all over the place, that dieting doesn't actually work long term. Most people will gain back what they lost and more than that because they've fucked up their metabolism by dieting. I can attest to this. I yo-yo dieted for years. I would never have admitted this before, I think the last like 6 months or so, but every spring for the last like 6 years, I would do low carb from like sometime in January through kind of a lot of the summer because I wanted to fit into my summer clothes and not get a beach body per se, but I just kind of wanted to be able to fit back into the clothes that I had bought in those seasons. And this year I finally was like, screw that, I'm not doing it. This is the size I am. I bought more clothes that fit the size that I am now. And I just kind of stopped trying to play the, I could be skinnier and it would be so great if I was game. But I will say, again, every time I would lose the weight, it would come back and then more would come back. That's just how it works. So a tiny percentage of people have success long-term with dieting. Similarly, in fact, to the way that a lot of people with MLMs will have minimal success and then none over time. And you have this little tiny percentage that actually gets something good out of it. It's really kind of the same thing. It's a good metaphor. Very few people succeed with dieting. It's by and large bullshit. These programs are not going to work long term, or if they do, you're going to have to put a shit ton of money into them. And to be honest, a lot of them are unhealthy. A lot of them are not dissimilar to, or a lot of dieting in general is not dissimilar to disordered eating. It's effectively telling you to do what most diets are a form of an eating disorder. And that's really hard to hear. And I get it. And I'm sorry if anyone's offended by this, but the culture that we live in really encourages folks to behave a way that in a thin person would be considered an eating disorder. So I am, full disclosure here, a happily fat person. I'm not looking for people to tell me that I'm not fat, but that is going to color how I'm looking at this because I'm inherently coming from a perspective of knowing how the dieting industry works in general, knowing that diets by and large are shitty fads, and therefore being extra skeptical of these products versus the others. Although I will say if I get into like the makeup world ones, it'll be similarly skeptical, even though I don't have as much of a stake in those. All right, so Beachbody first. Their claims on their website amounted to change lives, get healthy, help others. I've known people who have done like the Beachbody stuff. This is the one that does P90X, I think. They're awful and gimmicky. No one I know has actually kept up with them. My sister did them a few times. And again, it was that like you start up and then you fall off and don't continue because they're awful and hard. And again, pretty gimmicky. Beachbody espouses clean eating, which is bullshit. And also Shakeology, which is like kind of the antithesis of clean eating because it's full of shit like milk and xanthan gum, which are usually not things that clean eating is associated with. So like, what anyway? It's not even consistent with its own bullshit. There's also in Beachbody a 30-day money-back guarantee. I didn't get a chance to look into whether anyone's had success with that, but I'm gonna guess no. Like usually money-back guarantees are relatively painless, easy options for a company to offer because so few people are actually going to go through the effort of submitting like the proof of why they didn't get satisfaction or whatever, that the company gets to seem like, oh, they're really trustworthy because they'll let me return it. When in reality, like nobody does. So that's why they offer it because no one actually takes advantage of it and they never lose any money on it. I did find at least one source of a dietitian being super skeptical of the whole thing. And it was a dietitian who seemed to be a reasonable person and not just like a everyone should be skinny all the time kind of dietitian. She did a review, I'll link it in the description as well, that kind of talks a lot about how like the testimonials from doctors on the Shakeology website are like plastic surgeons and anesthesiologists and age specialists and like ear, nose, throat doctors and stuff like that. Not like, particular surgeons or a gastroenterologist or like anything that is remotely connected to your like digestive system or even like the weight specialist kind of doctors. So it's first of all kind of shady that like the doctors that they're using for testimonials are ones who don't actually have any qualification in nutrition. There's a reason doctors specialize, and I wouldn't say that a plastic surgeon is necessarily someone who's like gonna know what to tell you about weight and nutrition, especially as they have kind of a vested interest in making everyone think they're fat all the time, because then more people will come to them to get things pulled off. Anyway, she goes into like some clean stuff about how like, well, the nutrition's actually clean in these shakes or whatever. But it's not like her conclusion as a dietitian is that these aren't great. So you've got someone who like, this is their whole job being like, this is actually probably not legit. So the product itself, we're going to call, it's not something that's really like a meal replacement the way it's marketed. They don't have enough calories to be meal replacements. So again, we're getting into disordered eating here that they're encouraging. It's like kind of it's kind of not really it's not going to give you all the benefits that it claims it's going to. Okay. Now, they also do have a results, and I think all of these do. All of these different programs have like the results page where it's like, this is what I looked like before, and then after Shakeology, I look like this. Well, those are also always bullshit because, again, it's not a long-term, like 10 years later, here's how everything's doing. And also there's this thing that I've heard that happens where a lot of these programs will pay someone to put weight on and then go on the product and take it back off. And it comes off more easily because the person was already fit before and then purposely gained weight, took it off, and then it was like, wow, look at this. All I did was Shakeology and I'm so fucking svelte. Like, that's not how it works. It's just not how it works. It doesn't work long term. Very few people are going to have those results. Even if they stick with the program, this is the other thing. It's not like, oh, well, you fell off after 2 months and that's why you didn't lose the weight. Even if you lose the weight staying with the program, like eventually you can't do it the whole rest of your life. And so the weight will come back on. Each of these I'm also going to mention have lawsuits against them. In the beginning, Beachbody used to subscribe folks who wanted to start with them. And then they started auto-charging them without actually getting folks' permission first. So you'd think you were signing up for, you were buying a month of Shakeology, and then your credit card would get hit the next month when you hadn't actually authorized that charge anywhere. You hadn't realized you were signing up for a multi-month program. They just stole your fucking money. So they had a lawsuit against them. That practice stopped. But early on, they were already starting out being shady as hell. All right, now we're going to get into the numbers. This is their 2016 to 2017 compensation summary / income disclosure. This is, again, earnings, not profits. So this is not minus expenses. 79% of Beachbody coaches are retail sellers who do not have a downline. Their average earnings were $367 per year. 17% of the company is Emerald. Their average earnings are $3,062 per year. Next up, you have Ruby sellers who average $11,379 per year. That's 0.7% of the team. And then the next level, Diamond, starts their leadership tiers, and they average $16,452 a year, representing another 2.2% of the company. The highest average earners are in the Star Diamond leadership ranks. The average there is $124,466 per year. Again, still earnings, doesn't include expenses, but there you're actually at a living wage. But you'll note that's the first tier with a living wage, and it soars way past where you would think it would. It's not like we went to like 11,000, 16,000, 30,000. No, we went like 16 grand and then like 125 because there's like two assholes up there making $750,000 a year. So the averages get all fucked up. That group that earns over $100,000 a year on average is 1.2% of the company. So 80% of Beachbody coaches get to not have a downline, get to not recruit their friends, and do retail selling. And they make, on average, less than $1,000 a year. So for Beachbody, 79% make less than $500 a year. All the other ones don't make a living wage either. Every single level below Star Diamond in 2016 to 2017 didn't make anywhere near a living wage. Now, if this is something that you're doing to like supplement another job, that might be fine. $16,000 of profit certainly would pay for a few nice vacations, assuming that you didn't spend $75,000 to get there. And that's really the rub here, is that none of these numbers account for what those folks actually spent in order to make that money. So keep that in mind. Moving on, we're going to talk about Plexus. Their claims are that you'll get happy and healthy. Plexus is another line of weight management products. Nutrition products. They, for some reason, also have some anti-aging shit on their website because we can't be fat or old. The results, again, I'm not even really going to report on. I'm just going to tell you they're all fucking suspect because any weight loss results are always suspect. I didn't see any lawsuits against Plexus, but I did see a number of different complaints against them. Lawsuits are an interesting thing that most of these folks have against them, but not all of them do because they're a pain in the ass and expensive to bring up. And MLMs also have a history of getting away with a lot of shit because of the decisions around Amway that were made back in the 70s. I don't remember. Listen to the dream. I looked at their 2016 compensation summary or income disclosure document. Again, earnings, not profit, not commission. 82% of Plexus coaches are ambassadors. They average $301 per year. 5.12% are senior ambassadors who average $1,707. 8.96% are silver ambassadors who average $3,778. 2% are gold ambassadors who average $10,237. 0.75% are senior gold ambassadors who average $19,833. 0.26%, that's 0.25%, are ruby ambassadors who average $30,669. 0.24% are senior ruby ambassadors who average $49,610. We are finally at a living wage with that one. Almost, kind of, in some areas. And the last three after this are laughably low percentages. So you're like less than 0.25% is the first place that you're seeing like someone who could actually do this as a job. And again, that's assuming that almost $50,000 average didn't take another $50,000 of purchases to get to, and that you don't have stock sitting around your house. Because you've got to meet minimums to stay at these levels. So if you don't buy enough product to stay at the level, then you get a lower commission level, or you get whatever, worse discounts, whatever the hell. There are minimums there. So that's why I keep bringing up this idea that they might have had to buy a lot more than they sold in order to make those profits, because that's the case. That's how MLMs work. They offload products to their consultants, and then they don't give a shit if you sell them or not because the company's made the money. All right, so the final three tiers are Emerald Ambassadors. 0.15% of the company averages $102,768. 0.04% are Sapphire Ambassadors. 0.04%. They average $172,657. And 0.06% are Diamond Ambassadors who average $418,174. So this one, Plexus broke out into more tiers, and that probably makes the higher tiers seem even fancier and better, basically, because that highest tier shows you the averages. And I've seen this in a few different ones where they'll kind of break them out into more because it makes it seem like, oh, there like really is a tiering system. Where like if you look at Beachbody, because they have fewer divisions, the averages are all maybe a little bit lower than they would be if you kind of got craftier with the numbers. So the total percent of employees that earned over $40,000 with Plexus in a year was less than 1%. Less than 1%. The actual commission payments averaged $1,700, and the median was actually $172. So you got to think about it. When they're selling you this dream of you're going to make so much money, no, you're not. You can make a little bit. You make a little bit of a supplementary income, but you're not going to run your own business that's going to change your life. And it's not necessarily because of the effort that you're putting in or not. There are plenty of people who will be like, well, but I focused on my business and so I made all this money. And it's like, a few people are able to do that. But you know what happens when there's one in one area? If they recruit you, you're not going to be able to do the same thing because MLMs, due to the nature of a pyramid scheme, are not able to sustain multiple pyramids in an area. There aren't enough human beings to make it work. So it's just like, it's a self-limiting thing and people don't think of it that way. But if your friend is like, oh my God, I'm a $200,000 a year seller of golden ruby fruit ambassadorship, you can't do the same thing in your area because there's already somebody who's at the top of that pyramid. You're not going to be able to sell into new lines. All of your friends are already in that fucking pyramid. Now we're on to Herbalife. Their claim was, or their general claims were like, make money, make a difference. Get money by hardly working, helping people get healthy. By healthy, we mean skinny. Let me tell you how many pounds I lost. Oh my God, I feel so much better than when I used to be a fucking fat ass. Lots of dubious shit about like goals and fueling yourself. Again, not going into the results because they're bullshit. Should have made that more clear maybe at the beginning. But I'm not going to tell you what they say about what they do for you because that, along with the income, is always going to be bullshit. There was a lawsuit from Florida last year against Herbalife, as reported by NBC Miami. There were thousands of plaintiffs in a $1 billion lawsuit against Herbalife. I think it might still be ongoing. But basically, people all bought the bullshit that they were going to get rich beyond their wildest dreams and quit their jobs and went to events and got new recruits and met all their quotas, and they lost a shit ton of money. The ones named from the Florida part of this lawsuit, they lost over $100,000, including about $20,000 spent on attending Herbalife events. $100,000. That's a lot of fucking money. That's like a third of this house that I live in. That's so much money. But if you buy into the dream, that's what happens. I couldn't find what happened with this lawsuit. I think it might still be out there, but it's unlikely to go anywhere because judges won't say that MLMs are pyramid schemes because of the Amway ruling. God damn it. Compensation summary that I found for Herbalife is from 2012. This is, again, earnings, not profits, but it is company payouts, not sales. So this one is like company commission payouts. Not like profits on sales you made. 88% of Herbalife distributors got no payments from Herbalife in 2012. They could have made profits on their sales, but they made $0 from Herbalife, the company, and again, are likely underwater because they likely bought more product than they sold, even if they did sell some. 73% of their distributors, to be fair, don't distribute, they join to buy for themselves and their families, according to Herbalife's flowery language. So take that as you will. 71% of Herbalife distributors had no downline, so they just got wholesale pricing and made no money from Herbalife. 71% just bought Herbalife products at wholesale and made no actual money off of them. So that's like most of your 73% no downline type of people. That's most of the company. 12% of Herbalife distributors had a downline but weren't sales leaders. half or so of that 12% got some payment from Herbalife. The average payment was $104. Real great payment from your company. $104 in a whole year. You could get like 10 packs of cigarettes or like 20 coffees. Like, this is just a laughable amount of money. That's not even enough to like go on a vacation or something. It's not enough to buy a car. It's not enough to do basically anything. That's not to downplay the importance of $100 to some people, but that's likely not going to cover the extra product that you bought that you didn't sell. Just saying. 17% of Herbalife distributors are sales leaders with a downline. 30.6% of them, this one's annoying, and again, check out what I'm going to link from them because it's an annoying report and it's tough to discuss clearly because they just like resplit every division. Of the 17% of Herbalife distributors that are sales leaders, 30% of them made nothing from Herbalife in commissions. 47.5% made $292 from Herbalife. 13.7% made $2,216. 3.1% made $7,008. 2.4% made $15,538. 1.4%, again, this is 1.4% of the 17%, made $35,581. 0.7% made $68,912. Look at that. That's like a livable wage. 0.5% made $148,808. And then 0.2%, 194 people made $724,030 from Herbalife. So like less than 200 people averaged some ridiculous number. Less than 200 people of the gajillions of consultants they have. All averaged out. Again, all of these figures are averaged out, including that top 0.2%. That's an averaged out number. So even that one, a lot of people didn't make a ton of money that were in that sort of averaged out tier. And then a few made a ton. That group of 0.2% is everyone who made over 250,000. So some of them made 250,000. And then again, you've got like a few up there who are making $1 million some odd because they're some kind of big, basically like distributor for their area and they have 1 million people in their downline. The total percent that earned over $40,000 is less than 2% of the company. I'm kind of using 40,000 as like a benchmark of what is sort of a livable wage. It was when I started working, certainly, but that was a number of years ago now. So in some places, it's probably a great wage. In Massachusetts, it's like still kind of getting by the skin of your teeth. And finally, we're going to go to Arbonne. Their claims are that they're pure, safe, and beneficial. Basically, nature and science will make you pretty and rich. And everything is wonderful. Lots of hippie buzzwords, lots of influencers involved in the Arbonne style of things. Again, like probably fine stuff, but always super overpriced the way that MLM is. Face wash is $40 fucking dollars. $40. That's more expensive than like even Lush or whatever the fuck. Like go to CVS. $40. It's not going to make you 15 years old again. It's not going to give you the skin of your youth. Like that's not it. Nothing works that well. And the only reason it's $40 is because the company needs to make the profit and then all the people in the upline from whoever sold it to you need to make their money. Like it's not expensive because it's better. It's expensive because of the business model. Anyway, I keep doing the same rants, but they have a lawsuit against them that they're a pyramid scheme. Truthandadvertising.com sort of has a nice little timeline of a lawsuit against them where it was alleged in a class action lawsuit that they're a pyramid scheme. It was transferred to federal court. There was a stay. It was dismissed without prejudice because of a settlement agreement, which hasn't been disclosed. So the case got dismissed because of a settlement. So generally when things like that happen, it's not because the company knows they're going to get off scot-free if they actually go to court. So they just pay people off to stop suing them. So that's definitely not like, oh, Arbonne won its lawsuit. No, they didn't win their lawsuit. They settled out of court. That's a very different thing. Their compensation summary that I found, again, was from 2012. Don't know why. These different companies all have different years online. Independent consultants, 5.5% of their consultants made $631. District managers, 3.0%, made $2,596. Area managers, which is 0.8%, 0.8%, made $11,946. Regional vice presidents, 0.3%, made $41,853. If you were to tell me that someone with a title regional vice president made 42 grand a year, I would laugh you out of the building. Like, that's embarrassing that that's what you've titled that position. National vice presidents, 0.1%, made $172,175. Again, embarrassing for a national vice president salary. And again, this is that weird thing where it's not necessarily like, it's not the profit that person's business made. It's like their earnings or whatever. The total percent that earned over 40,000 was 0.5%. Presumably the remaining 90% made nothing, because this report just didn't cover 100% of people. It only gave this little tiny snippet of people. And honestly, it would follow with a lot of the other companies if that was the case, if over 90% didn't make any money, because most of these companies, that's what's happening. This is one of the biggest reasons that I think it's important to speak out about MLMs. This is why I recommend you listen to The Dream. This is why I think no one should get into them. And this is why I do not listen to people who say, oh my God, I made so much money. Oh, it was so great. Oh, I've got my own business and it's just that people suck if they don't make any money. You're going to tell me that 90% of the people recruited into these programs are all just like lazy losers who don't try hard? The people who do things like sue because they lost $100,000 because they went to a ton of conferences and they did meet their quotas and they still came out way behind because it's a fucking pyramid scheme. Those people are not lazy. They're not idiots. There are people who really tried to follow all of the guidance they got. You just can't tell me that all of the people who failed at MLMs were just idiots or lazy. That's not how it works. That's not how it works in a normal job, even in sales. Because MLM, yes, it does take a really salesperson type personality, but you don't see 90% of salespeople in an organization failing regularly. That's just not how it works. I have worked in plenty of companies with big sales teams, and I've never seen 90% of them routinely fail, especially if they have support. Like all of these MLMs tell you they give you, especially if they're attending conventions to learn how to sell better, to negotiate, how to work their funnel better. There just isn't anything that you're going to see a 90% failure rate in. So you can't blame it on like, oh, we let the wrong people into my downline. That's really what it was. That's why they failed. If they just tried harder like me, no. It's because it's a pyramid scheme. It's because there's only so much that you can do in an area with the same company in a pyramid scheme. It's because your market is not infinite the way that they want you to think that it is. And it's because a lot of people have caught on that MLMs are predatory, they are bankrupting people, and that their products aren't actually what they say they are. So again, a big part of this for me and why I like to speak out about it, and why when I get comments like I did from someone on one of the other videos about how like I was clearly just bitter because my experience wasn't good. Heads up, I've never actually tried to get into an MLM except once accidentally Primerica because I didn't realize that was what it was. I've never actually tried to do an MLM because it's bullshit. And I know it is. So it's not that I've had a failed experience. It's just that I feel awful for everyone who does, because these aren't people who just suck and that's why they're not succeeding. They're not succeeding because the model is set up to cause them to fail. Because if you fail at selling product in an MLM, the company is making more money off of you. You are buying to meet your minimums, to stay at your level. You can't sell it. The company doesn't care because they've already made their money off of you. So that's really, to me, the big issue behind all of it. I've stated that in other videos, so this might be a little repetitive. I hope that some of the information here was helpful to you. Again, I'm going to link all of these reports for you because it's me presenting numbers that I researched that are out there. But again, all of these health and wellness MLMs that I looked into, 70 to 90% of people made no money off of them. None at all. And then everyone else made a pittance effectively, except for the people at the very, very, very top. So it's not hard to see that there's a problem here, and it's not the people who got suckered in to being part of MLMs. Thank you so much for watching. I'm sorry it took me so long to get this out. I do have other MLM topics sort of that folks have asked about similar to these, different companies to look into. But if you have any in particular that you're interested in, just let me know. Thank you so much. Have a great day.